Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's a girl Naseko Paps. Hope you've been doing good. As you can see, I'm also doing fine. My Arabic grass is growing and you can see my children are enjoying playing on it. At least there is no dust when they are playing. We're on a field to play with now. Today I want to talk about something I've been thinking about, and that is friendship, and when it's time to let old friendship go and make room for new ones. And I've been thinking that maybe it's me or we are many out there where you reach a point in your life where you suddenly realize that you are no longer the same person you used to be, but the people around you still expect you to be that person. Maybe your interests have changed, your priorities have changed, the things you want out of life have also changed, and even the way you see the world is different, yet you still find yourself holding on to certain friendships simply because you've known these people for so many years. Sometimes you even feel guilty for making new friends because you feel like you are betraying the people who were there before. But I have been thinking about this a lot lately, and I have come to realize that there is nothing wrong with reaching a point where you need new friendships, new connection, and even a new environment. There is nothing wrong with appreciating the people who were part of your past, while also accepting that not everyone who walked with you in one chapter of your life is necessarily meant to walk with you into the next one. Sometimes people are meant for a reason or for a season, and when that season changes, the relationship may change too. That doesn't always mean there was a fight, that someone betrayed you, or that somebody became a bad person. Sometimes life simply takes you in a different direction. And thinking about the friendships we make when we are young. When you're in school, your closest friend is often the person sitting next to you every day. You share everything because you're experiencing the same thing at the same time. You have the same teachers, the same homework, the same worries, and sometimes even the same dreams. Then you grow up and life starts changing. One friend gets married, another starts a business, another gets a job in another town, another decides to move abroad, while someone else chooses to stay exactly where they are. At first you think still talking to them at the time, but slowly the conversations become less frequent, and sometimes you might even feel hurt and wonder why the friendship isn't what it used to be. But perhaps nothing terrible happened, and perhaps both of you simply entered different seasons. I think we sometimes make ourselves unnecessarily unhappy by believing that every friendship that becomes distant must have ended badly. Some relationships simply become quieter because life changes, and that's okay. And there's another kind of friendship that can become difficult, and that is when you start changing, but the people around you are still attached to the old version of you. Maybe you have decided that you want to start a business, but every time you mention it, your friends laugh and tell you that you are dreaming too much. Maybe you decide that you want to move somewhere quieter, and suddenly people start asking why you are going backwards. Maybe you decided to stop spending money on things that don't matter to you anymore and start investing in your future, but your friends think you have become boring. And maybe you have decided to spend more time with your children, learn a new skill, create content, start family, or simply live a slower life. And instead of encouraging you, some people keep reminding you of who you used to be. Sometimes the people who know you or know your past the best are the people who have the hardest time accepting your future. And I have experienced a little bit of this myself, especially since making the decision to move up country and live a different kind of life. When I moved, people immediately started creating their own expectation. Some people assumed I had gone broke. Some thought maybe things had become difficult financially. Some wondered whether something had happened to my business. There were even friends who called me because they thought I must have some kind of problem, or perhaps I had gotten myself into debt. But what was interesting to me was that they were looking at my life from the outside and creating a story without actually knowing what was happening inside my life. They saw me moving up country, they saw the unfinished house, they saw the slower lifestyle, and they made assumptions. What they couldn't see was how much happier I actually felt. They couldn't see the peace I had found. They couldn't see that I was spending more time with my children, that I could homeschool them comfortably, that we could wake up without rushing to catch buses. We could make breakfast together, sit outside in the sunshine, and walk around the compound together. They couldn't see that what looked like a step backward to them actually felt like a step forward to me. And that experience taught me something about people and relationships. Sometimes people judge your choice based on what they could have done in your situation. If they would have never choose to leave the city, they cannot understand why you would want to move to the village. And if they believe that success must look a certain way, they may see your different lifestyle as failure. If they believe that a person should always be chasing more money, a quieter life may look like giving up. But we all have different definitions of happiness. What makes one person happy may not make another person happy, and I think we have to give ourselves permission to accept that you don't have to live a life that makes sense to everybody else. This is where friendships become important, because the person around you can either give you room to grow or make you feel like you need to remain exactly where you are. Imagine these two friends who have known each other since childhood. One of them decides she wants to start a small business. She begins researching, learning, attending events, meeting new people, and spending her weekends working on her idea. Her own friends doesn't understand it. Every time she talks about the business, the friends tell her that she is working too hard and should just relax. And when she talks about meeting new people, the friend says that she has changed. When she says she wants to learn something new, the friends reminds her that she never used to be interested in those things. Eventually, the woman starts feeling guilty for changing. She starts wondering whether she is becoming selfish or whether she is abandoning her own friends. But perhaps she isn't doing anything wrong. Perhaps she is simply growing. And that does not mean the own friend is a bad person either. Maybe she is happy with the life she has and doesn't want the same things, and that's perfectly fine. The problem starts when one person expects the other to remain in the same place simply because they have been friends for a long time. You can love someone and still accept that you are moving in different direction. You can appreciate everything someone has done for you and still recognize that you need different people around you in the particular seasons of your life. And you can also wish someone well without forcing yourself to follow the same path. And one of the reasons I believe new friendships are important is because sometimes you need people who understand the direction you are going. Imagine that you have decided to start a business, but nobody in your current circle has ever run a business. You can still love those people, but when you meet someone who has already built a business, the conversations become different. You can ask questions, exchange ideas, learn from their mistakes, and perhaps discover opportunities you didn't know existed. Maybe that person introduces you to someone else. Maybe they encourage you when things become difficult because they have experienced the same struggles, and maybe you encourage them in another area of their life. That new friendship may not have 10 years of history behind it, but it may have something equally valuable, that is shared direction. And I think that sometimes we overlook, we often judge the value of friendship by how long we have known someone, but length of time isn't the only thing that matters. Sometimes you can meet someone 6 months ago and have a friendship that brings so much encouragement and growth into your life, and sometimes you can know someone for 20 years but realize that you have very little in common anymore, and that doesn't erase the history. It simply means your present is different from your past. Think about a farmer planting a garden. Every season the farmer decides what to plant based on what is needed for the next season. Some plants that were important last year may not be planted this year. That doesn't mean the farmer hates those plants. It simply means the needs of the garden have changed. I sometimes think friendships are like that, and as our lives change, we may need different kinds of people around us. We may need people who teach us something new, people who challenge us, people who encourage us, people who understand our new priorities, and people who are willing to grow alongside us. And I think this is particularly important when you are trying to build something new in your life. Maybe you are starting a business, maybe you are trying to improve financially, maybe you are changing your career, maybe you are moving to a new place, and maybe you are starting to learn a new skill or build a home. When you begin something new, you may suddenly discover that you need connection you never needed before. You need people who know things you don't know. You need people who have experience. You need people who can open your mind to possibilities. And sometimes those people are not already in your old circle. You have to be willing to meet new people, but I know there is a fear that comes with that. Starting new friendships as an adult can be uncomfortable because when you are young, a friendship happens naturally because you are surrounded by people at school, at church, at work, or in your neighborhood. And as an adult, you may have responsibilities and a busy life, and you might even wonder, where am I supposed to find new friends? But sometimes it hurts very simply. You can meet someone through a project, through your children's activities, through gardening, through business, through learning something new, or even through creating content. You don't have to go outside looking at desperately for friends. Sometimes you simply need to put yourself in environments where you can meet people who share your interests, and also people who share your values. And another thing I've learned is that you don't have to apologize for growing. Sometimes when people notice that you have changed, they say you have really changed, and they say it as though changing is automatically a bad thing. But when you don't, you should. But why should you change? You've lived more life, you've learned more, you have experienced things that the old version of you hadn't experienced. You have discovered things about yourself that you didn't know before, and of course you are going to change. The person you are 5 years ago made decisions based on the information she had at the time, and the person you are today has learned different lessons. It would actually be strange if you remained exactly the same. And I also think we need to be careful not to misunderstand this message. I'm not saying that the moment a friend doesn't agree with you, you should cut them off. And I'm not saying that everyone around you has to have exactly the same goals as you. Some of my best friendships could be with people who don't want the same lifestyle I want. They may not want to move out country. They may not want to garden. They may not want to homeschool their kids. And they also may not have, they may have completely different dreams, and that's okay, because a good friendship doesn't require two people to become identical. What matters is whether there is respect, whether you can support each other, and whether you can allow each other to grow. And the real reason is The real problem is when a friendship constantly make you feel like you have to become smaller to keep the relationship alive. Maybe every achievement becomes a competition. Maybe whenever something good happens to you, the person tries to minimize it. Maybe every new idea is laughed at, and maybe you have started hiding your good news because you are worried about how they will react, and you don't talk about your dreams anymore because you already know they will discourage you. If you find yourself constantly shrinking who you are just to someone else can remain comfortable, then you need to ask yourself whether that relationship is still healthy for you. And sometimes I think the same things applies to us. If you want supportive friendship, we also have to learn to become supportive friends. If we want people who celebrate our progress, we should learn to celebrate other people's progress. If we want honest friendships, we need to be honest too. And if we want people who encourage our dreams, we need to encourage theirs too. Sometimes we spend so much time looking for the right people that we forget to ask ourselves whether we are becoming the kind of person that the kind of friendship we want would naturally attract. And another important lesson I've learned is that you don't necessarily have to make a dramatic announcement when a friendship changes. You don't have to call someone and say, I'm cutting you off because you have become part of my past. Life doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes you simply become less available. You stop forcing conversation. You stop trying to maintain a closeness that no longer feels natural. You spend more time on the things that matters to you. You meet new people. You focus on your family, your work, your goals, and your personal growth. Slowly, life rearranges itself. And sometimes you may even discover that the old friendship can survive the change in a different form. Perhaps you don't speak every day anymore, but when you do talk, there is still love and respect. Perhaps you no longer share every detail of your life, but you still wish each other well. I think that's a beautiful thing too. Not every friendship has to remain exactly the same to remain meaningful. And there is also something very freeing about realizing that you don't have to hate someone in order to move away from them. We sometimes think that if we create distance from someone, we must have a reason to be angry with them, but that's not necessarily true. You can simply realize that the relationship no longer fits your life. You can appreciate what that person meant to you and still choose a different path. You don't have to turn them into a villain just because they aren't part of your future in the same way. Think about your own life for a moment. Maybe there is a friendship you have been holding on to purely because of history. Maybe you keep telling yourself, we have known each other for too long for me to walk away. But history is not the only thing that makes a relationship valuable. Ask yourself how you feel after spending time with that person. Do you feel encouraged? Do you feel respected? Can you be yourself? Can you talk about your dreams? Can you make mistakes without being humiliated? And can the other person celebrate your success without feeling threatened? And are you able to do the same for them? These questions can tell you much more about the health of a friendship than simply asking how many years you've been or you have known someone. And I also believe that every new chapter of life can introduce you to people you could never have imagined meeting before. Think about the people you know today. At some point in the past, they were completely strangers. You didn't know that one day you would meet them. The same thing is true about the people who haven't entered your life yet. There could be someone you meet next year who becomes one of your closest friends. There could be someone you meet through a simple conversation who introduces you to an opportunity that changes your life. And there could be someone who shares an idea with you that completely changes how you think. We cannot know where our future connects will come from, and that's why I think it's important to leave some room for new people. And sometimes we hold on to the old so tightly that there is no room for the new. We keep going back to the same conversations, the same environments, and the same patterns, and then we wonder why nothing in our lives is changing. But if you want a different life, sometimes you have to expose yourself to different ideas and different people. You don't have to abandon everything familiar. You simply have to be open enough to explore what else is possible. And perhaps one of the most important things I want someone listening to this to understand is that you are around to outgrow people. You are around to want different things, and you're also allowed to change your priorities. You are around to become more ambitious, become more peaceful, decide that you don't want the same lifestyle you wanted 10 years ago. You have to make new friends, to enter new environment, and none of that automatically makes you selfish or disloyal. What matters is how you handle the transition. You don't have to insult the people you are leaving behind. You don't have to expose their weakness. You don't have to create unnecessary drama and tell everybody why you are moving on. Sometimes you can simply say, I appreciate what we have shared, but I think my life is moving in a different direction now, and then you continue walking. And I think that's one of the most difficult things about growing. You slowly realize that not everybody can come with you, and that can hurt. Sometimes you wish you could keep everyone. You wish your own friends would understand every decision you make. Everyone could grow at the same space, but life doesn't work that way. People change at different times. People want different things. People have different priorities, and sometimes the healthiest you can do is accept that without any bitterness in you. And for me, moving up country has been a reminder of this. My life looks different from what some people expected. I have chosen a slower lifestyle. I spend more time with my children. I homeschool them. We don't have to rush out early every morning to catch buses. We can make breakfast together. We can sit outside in the sunshine. We can walk around the compound. We have space to play and enjoy one another. And my house may still be unfinished, but I'm not ashamed of that, because I know what I'm building. And my life may not look impressive to everyone, but I know how it feels to live it, and I am happy. And perhaps that is the biggest lesson. What you start choosing a life that genuinely makes you happy, you may discover that your relationship begin to change too. Some people will understand you and some won't. Some will become curious, some will criticize you, and some will quietly drift away. And some completely new people will enter your life and make you wonder why you were ever afraid of starting again. So if you're in a season where your circle is changing, I want you to stop feeling guilty about it. You don't have to force a friendship simply because of its age. You don't have to remain close to someone just because you were close 10 years ago. At the same time, you don't throw away good people simply because they have different dreams. Look for respect, love, encouragement, honesty, and the freedom to grow. Sometimes the right friendship isn't the one where you agree on everything. It's the one where you can be different and still genuinely want the best for each other. And if you are looking for new friendship, don't be afraid to put yourself in new environment. Start that project, join that group, learn that skill, go to that event, start that business. Spend time doing the things you genuinely enjoy. When you live more authentically, you naturally create opportunities to meet people who connect with the person you are becoming. I think one of the saddest thing would to remain stuck in an old version of yourself simply because you are afraid that your growth might make someone else uncomfortable. Your children are growing, your dreams are changing, your priorities are also changing. your understanding of yourself is also changing and your life is moving forward. Why shouldn't your friendships change too? Maybe the people you need for your next chapter haven't even entered your life yet. Maybe there are people out there who will understand your dreams better than you expected, and maybe there are people who will change you in ways that help you grow. And maybe also there are people who will introduce you to opportunity you never imagined, and maybe there are friendship waiting for you that you haven't even thought about, but you have to make room for them. And making room doesn't always mean destroying everything from the past. Sometimes it simply means opening the door to something new. You can appreciate where you've been while being excited about where you are going. You can keep beautiful memories without living in them. You can be grateful for old friendships without being afraid of new ones. And you can love people from your past while recognizing that your future may require a different kind of connection. And so if you have been feeling guilty because your circle is changing, maybe you don't need to feel guilty at all. Maybe you are simply entering another chapter. The distance you're experiencing isn't punishment, it's space for you to grow, for you to discover yourself, for new people to come into your life, and for you to become the person you have been trying to become. Life is made up of chapters, and I don't think every person is meant to appear on every page. Some people will be there at the beginning, some will walk with you through the difficult middle, and some will arrive when you're entering a completely new season. Appreciate each person for the role they played. Keep the lessons, keep the beautiful memories, and let go of what no longer serves you with grace, and then allow yourself to keep moving. Because at the end of the day, your life is still your life. You are the one who has to wake up every morning and live it. You are the one who has to carry your dreams. You are the one who has to live with your decisions. So don't allow the fear of disappointing other people to stop you from becoming who you are meant to be. Don't stay in a relationship simply because you're afraid of what will happen when you leave it, and don't be afraid to welcome someone new simply because they weren't part of your story before. You will realize that sometimes a new friendship is exactly what you need for a new season. Sometimes a new connection introduces you to a completely different world. Meeting new people will help you see possibilities that you couldn't see before, and sometimes even walking away from an old pattern is what finally gives you the freedom to grow. So maybe the question isn't who am I losing, maybe the question is who am I becoming, and who do I need around me for this next chapter. Because there is nothing wrong with starting again. There's nothing wrong with making new friends and choosing people who align with your values, your dreams, and your direction you are heading. There is certainly nothing wrong with growing a relationship that no longer fits the person you have become. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to be bitter. You don't have to explain yourself to everyone. Sometimes you simply have to accept that life is moving and you are moving with it. And perhaps one day you will look back and realize that the friendships you were once afraid to leave were actually making space for the friendships you are meant to find. So don't be afraid of new beginnings, new connections, becoming a different version of yourself. You can love where you have been and still be excited about where you are going. And you can also be grateful for the people who helped you get there, while making room for the people who will help you go further. Because sometimes growing means leaving something behind, and sometimes growing means opening a new door, and it means sometimes the people you meet in your next chapter are exactly the people you needed along. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please make sure you share, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that we can go on this journey together. Bye bye, and see you on my next video.